Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to Scrapbooking with a Twist. We're going to make our Circus embellishment today for the embellishment swap over on Ginger's Corner, and I decided on this little clown. Now, I'll tell you, this is a die that I got from Temu back when I was ordering Temu dies, and it's got 1,000 pieces, I'll just tell you. It's not one of the cheapy ones, but it still has 1,000 pieces. But it's cute. I didn't use all the pieces. I chose not to use them all. There's probably 20 pieces that I didn't use. And I'm going to show you kind of what some of those were. I have tried to speed up the process a little bit today I did all of the inking, or this would have taken a really long time to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building some of these pieces, and I'm going to start with the little head and put his hat together and then put it on his head and then just kind of go from there. So his hat, like his eyes, for example, when I start doing them, his eyes had, I think it was like 6 layers. No, I just can't do that. We're gonna make it work, but not 6 layers on just his eyes. So we're gonna start doing this, and I'm gonna do the twist real quick while I'm just doing a bunch of this gluing before I get to part that I'm going to explain a little more. So I'm just going to be assembling just a couple of things here. So our twist today, it comes from Matthew 6:6, and it says, "But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." And my plan is to do 2 or 3 twists about prayer and use this chapter 6 of Matthew to as my reference. So today, what I want to emphasize on this verse, there's really 2 things. I'm going to do this verse again and emphasize something later in it. But what I want to emphasize right now is Jesus is talking to his disciples, and this is not long before he's going to be crucified. No, this is not that close to crucifixion, I don't guess. He's talking to his disciples, and they're asking him about prayer. And he's about to give them the model prayer, the Lord's Prayer that we know, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. He's about to give them that, but he's giving them some pointers on prayer that we need to pay attention to. But what I want to call your attention to today is, he said, when you pray. Not if you pray, but when you pray. Jesus is assuming that his disciples, and I think he assumes that we're going to pray. We're told to. That's how one of the ways that we communicate with the Lord. And so he says, when you pray. Not if you pray, but when you pray. So just with that thought in mind, let's just think about when we pray. Do we pray every day? Do we have a time of day that we have set aside for prayer? And of course we pray at other times too, but do we have that time of day that we have set aside that is specifically when we pray each day? When we wake up in the morning, when we go to bed at night, when we get the kids off to school, what is our time to pray? And in our car, some people pray as they're traveling to work in their car and that type of thing. So first off, what is our time of day to pray? Do we have a time of day to pray, or are we just winging it? And then, because he says, when you pray, not if you pray, but when you pray. And then he's going to give them some pointers to make that prayer time more effective. And we certainly would need that. So when you pray. So if you haven't been praying, and sometimes, even those of us who pray, daily, every once in a while we just get to that point to where we're like, oh, wow, I don't think I prayed yesterday. and it kind of sets you back a little bit. So let's just be sure that we are praying, and then we're going to get some pointers on a couple of others that Jesus gave his disciples. Okay, there we go. We've got the little head with the hair and the hat on. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, these little dies, they don't give you much room to work with, to glue them together. So I'm going to just put this little head on this little strip. Whoops, I kind of moved that hat around a little. I'm going to put the head on this little strip, and I'm going to attach the body to it just to give me some stability and something to glue to. Hope I'm not too close to the bottom of the screen for you. Okay, now here is our little shirt, our little clown's shirt. I'm going to put that right on there. And then we have our that little ruffly thing that goes around his neck, collar of some kind, a clown collar. But that little strip, even though it was just tiny, gives us something to glue these things to. Now let's go ahead and put his little hands on. The open hand goes on this side, and the little closed hand goes on this side to hold his balloons. And there really isn't much room on these little hands, but I didn't put an extra piece. You could put an extra piece behind them, but I didn't. You notice I am using my little silicone mat so that I'm not getting this all on my mat that I do everything on. Just a dot on those hands to attach them. Yeah, this little die had a lot of pieces. And like I said, there are probably 20 little bitty teensy tiny pieces that I didn't use. And I'll show you what I did instead of using all those little bitty tiny pieces. Okay, now we have pants to assemble. And these pants have stripes. And I could have done the stripes with a marker, but I did choose to use the little stripes on his pants. I just thought they were cuter and they give it dimension. So I did use the little stripes on his pants that were cut out. And you have to, this isn't one that you can do, that you can just put everything down and make one trip through your die cutting machine. This one takes a lot of trips. Well, just deciding their colors to start with, and then it takes, or at least I'm not organized enough to do it like in 1 or 2 trips. You've got the yellow, which is your hat band. I didn't use the die for the flower, I used a punch. Your hat band and the stripes and one of the balloon and one balloon. And you only get one balloon. So however many balloons you're going to do, you have to cut them that many times. The little picture that they had 6 balloons. And I apologize, but y'all are not getting 6 balloons. I wasn't cutting that many balloons. I did cut 3 for everyone. I usually make about 8 embellishments. I make 4 for the swap, and then I make 2 for me because, as you well know, I do 2 sets of scrapbooks. And then I usually make 1, if it's a die cut like this and it's the first time I've used it, I make 1 to put with my die cut. And then I usually make 1 for a friend. And I don't know how many that is that I just said, but I usually make 7 or 8. I'm getting so excited, y'all. We leave a week from today on our cruise for 2 weeks. I'm so excited. And of course, you know, the war in Israel Israel and Iran, kind of stepping up. I heard today we're going to be in the Mediterranean, and I heard today that Russia has put a ship in the Mediterranean. I didn't ink this, so I'm going to have to go back and ink these little pants. I didn't ink them. Has put a ship in the Mediterranean that has supersonic missiles on it. I thought that's great, just as we're going to the Mediterranean. But you know what? I told my friends at church Sunday, I said, you know, if the rapture comes while we're gone on this trip, I'll just meet y'all in the air. I mean, that's just going to be my attitude. I firmly believe that things are not falling apart, that they're falling in place. And so unless they shut down, you know, my flight or something really big happens, still plan on going to the Mediterranean next week. Some people say, oh, people are crazy for wanting to travel right now. There's something going on all the time. So I don't think I've told y'all the ports that we're going to. I think I've mentioned some. We start in Rome, and we're going to spend an extra, we get in Rome real early that morning, and we're going to spend an extra day in Rome. So we'll have all day that day and quite a bit of the next day in Rome to do things. We've both been to Rome, but we want to do some things that we haven't done yet, like go to the catacombs and some things like that neither one of us have done yet. I'm going to go ahead and put his little belt on because I can't do the dots on his shirt until I have his belt in place. And so then we get on the ship, and we're on the ship. Our only day at sea without a port is that first day. And we sail from Rome all the way around the boot of Italy to Croatia. And we go to Dubrovnik, Croatia, which I'm really excited about that. I've never been to Croatia. I've been around it, but I've never been to Croatia. And then I believe from there we go to Malta. So I'm excited about Malta because, of course, I, teach Bible study, and Malta's where Paul ended up, on the shipwreck. And then the snake, they were around the fire and the snake bit him. So we go to Malta, and then we go to Sicily. And I have family on my dad's side that came from Sicily and southern Italy. I've been to Italy a couple of times, but I've never been to southern Italy nor Sicily, which is part of Italy, an island of Italy. And then we go Malta and then Sicily, and then we go to Naples, and we're going to Pompeii. And then from there, we go to northern Italy. I have been to Florence, which is, I think, kind of where we dock, but we're going to Pisa. I've never been to we did not do Pisa when I was in Florence. So we're going to do Pisa. And then from there, we go to Cannes, France. And the only thing I know about is the film festival there. So that is southern France. It's wine country, that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so now I'm going to put the little dots on his shirt. You guys have seen me use this 1,000 times. It's the really small. Now, I have a smaller one than this, actually. But this is that little small hole punch like I do in tags and things like that. And because they had a die that cut little tiny dots out. And I did a few of them, and I said, no, I'm not doing this. We're going to do something different for the polka dots on his shirt. And so I said, I'm going to use my little hole punch, not that. It was just too much. So then from there, we go to 3 places in Spain. We go to Ibiza, we go to Palma, and then we end in Barcelona. And we're going to spend an extra night. We get in there real early in the morning. We disembark real early in the morning. And we'll tour all that day, and then we're going to spend the night. And we have a lot of the next day before we have to go to the airport to fly home. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to this trip. And I've been to France before, but not to southern France. I've never been to Spain. I've never been to Croatia. I've never been to Sicily. I've never been to Malta. So it's going to be a great trip. I just ask you to pray for our safety and the safety of the world. And I think everything will be fine. I'm certainly not going to fizz over it at this point. Okay, so now we have our little polka dots on. Now it's time to work on his little face. His little face is probably the hardest part. There is the outside of his mouth, and here is the inside of his mouth. And you really need to put his mouth on first and then kind of build up from there. So let's do that. And I really intended to make this little mouth first because I draw on it with my gel pen, and it needs a little bit to dry. So let's get our mouth on this. It goes just about, whoops, don't you scoot over there. That's not where you're supposed to be. Do you all talk to your scrapbooking pieces? I do. I do. Sorry, I know I'm a little, but I do. Okay, so there's our mouth. Now we got to get our mouth on our face. And there were about 3 more pieces just to his mouth. He has a little tongue, and so it was crazy how many pieces there were. Absolutely crazy. So we skipped that part. I'm just going to draw with a gel pen. And, you know, when I first started making this little guy, I tried those little beads, those little tiny, tiny beads, you know, flat beads for his eyes. And, oh, he looked scary. And I thought, this is why kids are afraid of clowns. And I thought, that's no good. So I took that off, and then I'll show you what I did do for his eyes. But, yeah, that I was like, no, 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 no. That's not going to work. So we got to get his little nose on. And then we can put his eyes on. I have to assemble his eyes. This eye would be his right eye, I guess, is like the one he's looking away, so it's like bigger than the left eye, kind of. Now, these are the 2 pieces that I cut to use for his eyes, kind of that outside, the outside, and then just the blue part, because I did not want to do 6 layers for his eyes. That just was more than I was willing to do. So we're going to get that on there. And, you know, I mean, I guess, and I mean, I know there are people that, Shannon Keith put that cart together that came off of Temu, that I think that's the winner on the most pieces I've ever seen. But I just look at it and say, you know, what can I do to simplify it just a little? And so if there are areas that I can do, you know, my pens, my markers, something like that, and make it simpler but still look okay to me, that's what matters. So let's get that on there. Okay. And I usually wait till I get his eyes on there to actually do the little black parts of his eyes. So we're just going to put a dot of glue on each side and put his eyes on. Whoa, what did I just do? I must have an eye on me somewhere. You know, if I ever lose something, it's just gone. There it is. I just flipped it over there. Oh, scare me, scare me. because if I ever flip it on the floor, it is gone. Everybody has their nemesis. Well, the floor is mine. Terry Rice has the disappearing, you know, those clear rulers, T-squares we all have. Well, she has the disappearing T-square. And my pieces, if they ever hit the floor, I may as well just not waste time looking for them and just cut a new one, because it's like it just consumes them. And then my dogs like to eat paper, and they have been the culprit sometimes too. Okay, so we've just about got him assembled. Now, I'm just going to use a black marker, and this is a real fine tip. This is extra fine Pilot, just like you can buy it, you know, Staples or somewhere. And I'm going to do his eyes, just the black part of his eyes with this marker. And as Ginger would say, there's no right or wrong way to do this. And then while I have this little black marker out, there was even tiny, tiny, tiny little pieces for the eyelets of his shoes and the shoelaces. Nope, not going there. I'm going to make some little dots and draw the shoelaces. Simple as that. And no one will ever, ever, ever know the difference, that that wasn't the way it was supposed to be. Okay, now I think that's all I need for the black marker. Then I'm going to move to, this is a set of markers that I bought, or actually I think my daughter bought them for me. We found them at Ross, and it was like at Christmas time, and I said, you know, I'd kind of like to have those. And she bought them for me and put them in my Christmas stocking. But they have the big end, and then they have the little end. And so for this, I'm going to use the little end, and I'm just going to do some little highlighting with it. Like I'm going to go along under the little brim on his hat. I'm just going to give it, and it's about out, as you can see. It doesn't mark just too great. Give his hat just a little touch there. And on his hair, I'm just making curly cues. One direction and then the other. He's kind of got, you know, Bozo the Clown hair, if any of y'all are old enough to remember Bozo. That's probably why my generation isn't afraid of clowns, because we had sweet clowns like Bozo. Okay, so now his hand, there are some little places that are embossed on this that you can kind of make like his little thumb and some little fingers, because you could probably actually put a string through that little hand. It's cut right there if you wanted to. And there's a little thing right there for his palm. Also on his shoes, I'm just going to give a little highlight right out here on these big old toes of his shoes. And then on the cuffs of his shirt, I'm going to do a little, like making the gathers there. And these may not even hardly show on the video, because this brown is pretty subdued against this orange. And of course, we're supposed to use scraps, and believe you me, there are scraps in this. I mean, I started to save what I had done all of this out of, because it was absolutely down to where you couldn't even get one of these little yellow dots out of it. Ginger would have been proud of me. So I keep talking about this. If you're new to my channel, I would love for you to subscribe, and love for you to give me a thumbs up. As Mel says, it doesn't cost a thing, and it does encourage our channel and helps it to grow. But this is a weekly swap over on Ginger's Corner, where we do embellishments. You can go over there. You can join the swap. You join Ginger's Corner Facebook group, and you can join the swaps, or you can just look in there and get inspired by what you see, what other people are making. And we have some absolutely amazing creators on that channel. I mean, it's just crazy how much fun it is to watch them. I'm going to give him some little eyebrows with this brown while I'm here too. All of these things that I'm doing had pieces, like his little eyebrows were a piece. Yeah, It was crazy how many pieces there were. And then I'm even going to show you on the balloon where like these little shadow parts on the balloon, those were pieces. It was just crazy. I think that is everything for the little brown marker now. I think that's all for the brown marker. And now I'm going to take my white gel pen and I'm going to give him some a little white highlight on each eye. And then I'm also going to draw a little on his mouth. I didn't like just the big, huge red mouth, but I was not going to cut all those little pieces. So, and I may go over this again when it dries with that gel marker. Okay, so there's our little clown. Now we have our balloons that we need to, this sticks to this mat, that we need to work with. And they had, as part of the pieces, the strings to the balloons. And I thought, nah, I'm not gonna cut those. I'll just use some string. I think it's cuter. And so, oh, I do need my white gel pen. I didn't do the shadowing on this green one. Just giving it my pen is starting to run out. Just giving it a little bit of some shadow there. On that balloon. All right, now we're going to, and most of these little tiny pieces, as you can see, that was off of the stripes on his pants. I had to do with wax paper because they were so small they wanted to stick in the die cut. I've got to do this the good way, blow on it. To dry that gel pen so I can turn it over and glue the string on it. But this is just crochet thread that I had, and it's in the green. You could use absolutely any color on this one. I tried to stay with the green, yellow, and orange, which to me is kind of circus colors. My son, of course, we didn't know what our kids were going to be when I had babies, but I didn't know if it was going to be a girl or a boy, but I chose a circus theme for my nursery, and I had the yellow, orange, and green colors in there. That way, if it was a boy or a girl, it was going to be okay. And it was a boy, my first one, and then my second one, 13 months later, was a girl. Okay, so there we have our balloons made, and our little embellishment is done. And whoever gets these as part of the swap, you can cut those strings. I did tie knots in the bottom so they wouldn't fray, but you can cut those strings to any length you want. And then when I use them, I'll attach, so that they're all together there in his little hand, behind his little hand. And that one will probably need to be cut off some. But there we have it, our little Circus embellishment. And like I said, if you haven't joined or found us over on Ginger's Corner, go do that. If you would, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe. Go find all the other creators. As a matter of fact, in the description below, I forgot two things. In the description below, the links to other people who have done this embellishment will be down there. It's fun to watch everyone's take on it. There'll be no two alike. That's what's, I think, really fun about this hop, is all the different ideas that you get each week. That is, there was a little tiny piece cut for his belt. This is just kind of the yellow gold color of the pops of color that my daughter got me for Christmas that I absolutely love. This is the Glossy Accents. And remember I told you that I had tried to use the little bead to give him some sparkle in his eye, and it made him look crazy wild. I did not like it at all. And so I ended up, whoa, a pen came apart. I ended up just putting the little glossy accents on his eye, and I'll show you. That will be, I think, the last thing that we do, and then I'm going to try to give you some close-ups. Whoa, don't bubble on me. Just a tiny, tiny dot on each eye, just to make those little eyes come alive. All right, there we go. Let me see if I can get you some close-ups. And have a blessed day, and above all else, be a blessing to someone else.